So we have seen that unlike the sequence of numbers, even if a sequence of functions is pointwise bounded, it need not have a convergent subsequence. And we have seen by example that even if we have a uniformly bounded sequence of functions defined on a compact set, then even then we cannot find a subsequence which converges. Okay, but if we have the sequence is pointwise bounded on a countable set, then we can show that there always exists a subsequence of it which is converging on that countable set. Or if a sequence of functions is bounded, pointwise bounded on a set E, then on a subset of E which is countable, we can find a subsequence of this sequence which is convergent. Okay, so that's our next theorem. The statement is this: is it visible? Yeah. Let Fn be a pointwise bounded sequence of complex numbers and a countable subset of X. Complex number defined functions Fn are defined on some set E and E1 be a countable subset of E. Then there always exists subsequence Fnk of Fn such that Fnk converges on E1, provided E1 is a countable subset. E1 is a countable subset. So if the sequence is defined on a countable set, or if we consider a countable subset of the domain of the sequence, then we can always find a convergent subsequence converging for points in that countable set. Okay, so the proof is a diagonalization process. Given the functions are pointwise bounded, so Fn pointwise bounded. That means the sequence Fnx is bounded for all x in the domain. Okay? Fnx is bounded. Modulus of Fnx is less than some real number for every x. For every for particular x and for every n, and this is true for every x. Okay? It is pointwise bounded. And so if we look at this sequence Fnx, that means Fn is evaluated at x. Okay? If we fix some x in E, this is exactly a numerical sequence. Okay, it's a sequence of complex numbers. For numbers, we have every bounded sequence has a convergent subsequence. Okay, we are making use of that fact. Every bounded sequence has a convergent subsequence, and we have to get a convergent subsequence of Fn on this countable set E. Okay, countable subset E1 of E. So let us first list the. So this implies is a sequence of numbers which has a convergent subsequence. This we are going to values of. Okay. So consider the elements of E1. We can list the elements of E1 being countable as say x1, x2, etc. Okay. Now look at the sequence Fn at x1. Okay. We consider the sequence Fn at x1. This argument, I am making this argument as star. So star implies this, which is a sequence of complex numbers, which is pointwise bounded. If the sequence is bounded, has a convergent subsequence. Okay, so star implies this has a convergent subsequence. Similarly, if we put it x2 here, then it also has again Fn x2. Fn evaluated at x2. Every Fn is evaluated at x2. So the elements of the sequence are F1 is evaluated at x1. In this case, F2 evaluated at x1, F3 evaluated at x1. Since are complex numbers, so this is also okay. It has a convergent subsequence. So similarly for x2, if we replace x1 by x2, then also we get a convergent subsequence. So for x1, this convergent subsequence we may denote, for example, by F1k, k from 1 to n. F1k are elements of this sequence, okay? F1k such that F1k of x1 converges. Okay, this is our argument. So F1k of x1 is converged. That is Fnk F1k of x1 converges. Okay. Now look at this sequence F1k. It is a subsequence of Fn. It is a subsequence of Fn. As Fn is pointwise bounded on E, so at every point of E, F1k is also bounded. So we can look at F1k at x2. So first we consider x1 here, and we find a subsequence of Fn, so that this is F1k of x1 converges. Okay. Now we consider the subsequence and look at its values at x2. Okay, every function values at x2. The functions in the subsequence. This is again pointwise bounded and has a convergent subsequence. Okay, so this is regarding the point 2, x2. So we can denote this by f2k. Okay, k is from 1 to infinity. So f21, f22, f23, etc. These are the subsequence of f1k, and f1k, the elements of which are elements in the sequence Fn and so on. Okay. So this has a convergent subsequence f2k. Continue this. Now next, what is next? We consider this subsequence f2k. Consider the numerical sequence f2k at x3 being bounded. It has convergent subsequence. Call it f3k. So that f3k at x3 converges. So here we have f2k at x2. The sequence is convergent. From the next step, we have a subsequence of f2k, which is f3k, and which converges. f3k at x3 converges, and so on. Okay. So we have a set of, or a collection, a countable collection of subsequences. Okay. So what we have? So we have the collection of subsequences. We can remove this part. We call them, for convenience, we call them S1, S2, etc. So what is S1? S1 contains F11, F12, this is F12 first term, F13, etc. Then S2 contains F21, F22, F23, S3, F31, F32, F33. So this is continued. Okay. So we have a sequence of sequences. We have a sequence of sequences. What are the properties of this? They satisfy some properties. What are they? First argument is this: each Sn is a subsequence of the previous one, Sn minus. Okay. From F1k are subsequence of Fn, and F2k is a subsequence of F1k, F3k is a subsequence of F2k, and so on. Okay. So Sn is a subsequence of Sn minus. This is true for all n to these. Okay. Now another property is this. If we, what is the second fact we have here? The F1k x1 converges, F2k x2 converges, F3k x3 converges, and so on. Okay. So Fnk in general, Fnk at xn converges. Okay. So Fnk at xn converges. This sequence of numbers, complex numbers, converges for all n. Okay. One more point we can use is this as being S2 a subsequence of S1. So you can see that F21 is a point of S1. So F21 may be F11 or F12 or anyway. Okay. So how we start? Suppose F12 is here, F11 is not here. Then we take the first member of S2 as F21. Okay. That is F12. F12 will be F21. Okay. So we arrange the elements of Sn in such a way that any two functions Fni and Fnj, if they are in the relation Fij precedes Fik or Fnj precedes Fnk, how we started? Any two functions Fni and Fnj. Okay? So if Fni precedes Fnj in one of the sequence, then in all other sequences which they belong, that relation is followed. Okay? Everywhere Fni precedes Fn. So that order we are maintaining. Okay? So maintaining the order, you can choose the subsequences in such a way that they maintain the order of the functions. Okay? So such that the order in which two functions appear in here is the same. Is the same for all sequences. For all sequences. Or more precisely, what we can say, that is, if some Fni precedes Fnj in some sequence Sk, then they satisfy the same relation. In any sequence, any Sn, this can be Sn, this S. In any Sk where they both belong, where they both. That means, suppose F12 and F13 are elements of S2 also. Okay? All the functions in S1 may not be elements of S2. Suppose F12 and F13 are elements of S2 also. So we can take and F1, if F11 is not in S2, F12 is taken as F21, F13 is taken as F22. Okay, we can take the other order also, but for our convenience, we choose the order is preserved. We choose the sequence so that the order is preserved. Okay, so that's the only thing. By this statement, we mean that. So we have a sequence of functions, a sequence of sequences having this property. Okay. Now the diagonal process is this. You look at the functions f11, f3, f22, f33, etc. The functions on the diagonal. Okay. So we have these functions in an array. So you look at the diagonal entries. So consider the sequence f n m. Okay. You can see that after F22 onwards, it is a subsequence of S2 because every element of S3 is in S2. Okay, it's a subsequence of S2, and most probably, if we consider this subsequence as a subsequence of S2, the only element which may not be in this S2 will be F1. Okay, the only possible element which may not be in S2 may be F1. Similarly, if we look at this sequence, the only possible elements which may not be in S3 will be F2 to F1. I am not sure this F22 can be a member of this. Well, okay. So, but the possibility is that F33 onwards, every element is in S3. Or in general, Fn onwards, every element is in Sn. Okay. So, if we look at this sequence, it can be regarded as it has a subsequence. It has a subsequence which is contained in Sn for each n. Okay. So, but we can say that consider this sequence by our construction. The sequence containing Fnn, Fn plus 1, n plus 1, etc. This is a part of S. This is a part of S. It's a subsequence. So that means all elements of the sequence except a finite number of is a subsequence of Sn. This is true for everything. Okay. So this must be converging as it is a subset of Sn for all n. You can see that this sequence Fn x I converges for all n. For all I. So Fn x1, you take Fn x1. Okay. So Fn x1 is a subsequence of S1. Fn x2, it is a subsequence of S2, except possibly only one member may be left. Okay. So first term, except the first term, all the remaining are subset of S2. So it's a subsequence. It has a, and the first term, the convergence is not affected by the first term or the first two terms or first finitely many terms. Okay. It is up to the tail of the sequence. So the convergence we have for every xi, x1, x2, whatever it is, you have Fn and xi converges for all. And this is what we want to get. We have the elements of E1 are exactly the xi's. And this is true for every I is equal to 1, 2, 3. So for every element in E1, this sequence converges. Okay, that means it is a convergent subsequence of the original sequence F1, which converges for all points in E1. Okay, this is the diagonal method to prove the situation. Okay, so this is possible, or we can do these things in this way because E1 is counted. That is why in that case we have a convergent subsequent. Okay, that is a particular case where this property holds.